Now let's look at someone else, Barack Obama. Barack and Michelle Obama have a production company, Higher Ground, that has produced a Netflix movie that is an apocalyptic psychological thriller that deals with what exactly? It deals with a cyber attack affecting the United States of America. This movie also emphasizes a clear division in America amongst white and black Americans. As I've said before, this movie was released on Netflix on December the 8th. December the 8th can be written as 12/8. It could also be written as 128. We're going to be looking at the number 128 many times in this presentation. If you really wanted to get black people, especially black Americans, to pay attention to a specific movie, then I say you should have the Obamas produce that movie. Well, they got my attention. Let's take a deeper look. At the start of this movie, a white couple is on their way to a vacation rental property. As you will see, they are taking exit 76, Point Comfort. Nothing that happens in this Obama-produced movie is by chance. When you see them taking exit 76, Point Comfort, understand that this is highly symbolic, because Point Comfort is the point where the first slave ship with 20 African slaves landed in America. This is where slavery started 400 years ago. To the casual observer, this massive container ship running aground in the opening scenes of the movie seems like a blockbuster Hollywood action scene and nothing more. However, let's look a little deeper, because we know we should. Pay attention to the name of this ship. This massive container ship is called the White Lion. The White Lion, that's a name that you should know. It is the name of the first slave ship that came to America with 20 slaves on board, brought here from Angola, Africa, against their will. When I mentioned that the Obamas released this movie, Leave the World Behind, on December the 8th, I also mentioned that December the 8th could be written as 12/8 or 128. Gematria involves assigning numerical values to letters. This is done in many of the older languages, including Hebrew, and it's clearly known that every letter has its numerical value. We can use this gematria to look even deeper. The name of the ship, the White Lion, when used in the basic cipher of reverse English ordinal, this means instead of A, B, C being 1, 2, 3, we go backwards. So XYZ is actually 3, 2, 1. It's a backwards numerical count. Now, when we look at the White Lion and we translate it with gematria going in reverse English, we get the number 128. This again is not a coincidence. Believe it or not, this is also a very symbolic frame. They put special emphasis on this and called it the house. But they left something out. This is actually a direct reference to the White House. It is, of course, a white house. And what you will see is that even though there is a white family occupying it, they are renting the house. And a black family will come and claim that the house is theirs, that they just left for a while, but they own it and they kind of want to have it back. This is absolutely symbolic of the Obamas and their desire to return to the White House, to take that house and to take control of the reins of power once again. Now, this may seem like a stretch, but it also represents a slave ship. And the slaves, the black couple, is in the cargo hold of this house. The slave ship has a cargo area. And the black couple, they are actually in the basement of their own house. while the white couple is up in the top in the captain's chambers. And just to make it more obvious, what they did is put the background behind the bed of a scene of the ocean. When you see the director's perspective with the camera work, you could imagine that they're actually at sea. It looks like they're in bed at sea. This is not a coincidence, and it is all symbolic.
And we are following this breaking news this morning. Cell phone service disrupted across the country. Tens of thousands getting hit by a massive service outage. An industry source telling CNN that there's no indication, at least now, of a cyber attack. But really appreciate it.
Look, dystopian movies begin with this.
That's exactly right. I was just watching one.
Leave the World Behind on Netflix.
Such a good show.
Cell phone outage goes. I woke up this morning with SOS on my pink cell phone. Why it's pink is another issue, but
he has a very strong opinion about cell phone covers.
But again, when you can't reach anybody, it can be alarming, and that's what thousands of people woke up to this morning.
Yep.
Now, what they just did is they're really holding your hands. They're saying, you know what? These guys, they're not really paying attention. And we really want them to know that this is really us. I told you that everything is theater, whether it's professional actors, people on the television news, or even sports athletes. They are playing a part, they're reading a script. Many people refer to CNN as the mouthpiece for the politicians in Washington, D.C. So when they say something, it's because they were told to by these politicians. So when they mention a direct reference to Obama's movie as a direct relation to this outage, take it seriously. I told you that when we looked at the exit 76 that was taken to Point Comfort, that number was also going to be important. Well, in Gematria, there are 4 fundamental basic ciphers. There are many others. However, if you want to get people's attention, use the basic ciphers, because you know that is impossible to be by chance. Now, the name Barack Obama, the word cell, because we are talking about a cellular outage, and Barack Obama's book, A Promised Land, they all equal 76 in Gematria. Do you believe this is by chance? Of course, there are going to be skeptics. So let's just give you something, like a little icing on top of the cake. The date of this cellular outage was February the 22nd, 2024. The date of Obama's release of Leave the World Behind on Netflix was December the 8th, 2023. How many days do you think there are that separate those two dates? 76 days. This cellular outage happened 76 days after the release of Leave the World Behind. Do you believe that this is also by chance? On the 26th of March, 2024, at 1:28 a.m., wow, there's that number again, 1:28, the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore, Maryland collapsed after a cargo ship named the Dali, named after the artist Salvador Dali, lost power, veered off course, and crashed into the Francis Scott Key Bridge. This bridge then collapsed exactly at 1:28 a.m. What are the odds of that? Now, it didn't just crash into any bridge. It crashed into the Francis Scott Key Bridge. If you don't know, Francis Scott Key is the one who wrote the Star-Spangled Banner, the national anthem of America. So this symbolized a certain destruction of America. And it was a destruction that was triggered by a power loss on that ship. So we're going to have repeating themes here. Power loss resulting in a lot of catastrophic damage, as we saw in Obama's movie, Leave the World Behind. That number 128 just won't go away. If you look at the surveillance video footage, you will see that exactly at 128, the ship hit the bridge and the bridge collapsed. 1:28 a.m. It's not only that, but the person the bridge was named after is Francis Scott Key. His birthday is August the 1st. If you go from August the 1st, or from March the 26th to August the 1st, you actually get 128 days. So the bridge named after him collapsed 128 days before his birthday. This bridge collapse was triggered by a loss of power on the ship, which is symbolic of a power grid collapse, a power grid outage in America. What are the odds that power grid also equals 128 in gematria? Well, it does. This bridge collapse happened in Maryland. Maryland also equals 128. I could go on, believe me. There are a ton of relevant symbolic connections connecting this to something that they have planned in the future for America. After a catastrophic power failure, a container ship named Dali, which was named after the famous artist Salvador Dali, destroys the Francis Scott Key Bridge. What are the odds that Salvador Dali has a 78-year-old painting called The Broken Bridge and the Dream? This is a warning and also mockery. It is meant to tell you the American bridge was now destroyed, and after a catastrophic power outage, the American dream is soon to be destroyed as well. Back to the number 128. What are the odds that the name of his painting, The Broken Bridge and the Dream, equals 128? To go a little deeper down the rabbit hole, this was the Scott Key Bridge, but the key to what? Well, I mean, this is his name, so obviously nothing, right? Or maybe not. The real iconic bridge in America is the Golden Gate Bridge, and every gate needs a key. Well, we have the Scott Key Bridge. This painting had a reference to A Stairway to Heaven by Salvador Dali, and the golden gates are the gates to heaven. Do I even have to say anything? This is so in your face, it's not even funny. This album is titled, What You Gonna Do When the Grid Goes Down, with tracks named When the Grid Goes Down, Smash the Crowd, State of the Union, Shut the F Up, Grid. Need I say more? They also have a TV series called Fight the Power. Do you get it? Fight the Power. This was arguably the most popular song of the group Public Enemy. Chuck D is an American rapper, best known as the leader of the hip-hop group Public Enemy. He actually started writing rap music after the 1977 New York City blackout, which is often credited as a catalyst to the birth of hip-hop. Chuck D would often refer to himself in songs as Public Enemy #1. Well, Klaus Schwab, globalist and chairman of the World Economic Forum, also believes that the #1 threat to the public is a power/cyber attack. In his words, which you will hear shortly, he says the COVID-19 crisis and pandemic that we just experienced will seem like a tiny discomfort in comparison to what a power outage cyber attack would feel like and do to us. Just recently, on July 19th, 2024, we had a worldwide technology outage that happened, and they put the blame on a company called CrowdStrike. This affected millions of Windows-based systems, including those used by major airlines, hospitals, 911 dispatch, and banks. The outage was caused by a faulty software update by CrowdStrike, a cybersecurity company. Isn't that an odd name for a cybersecurity company? CrowdStrike? Strike the crowd? Where have we heard something like that recently? Wait a minute. Public Enemy's album titled What You Gonna Do When the Grid Goes Down? One of the tracks on that album was Smash the Crowd. So we have CrowdStrike cybersecurity, which is a lot like striking a crowd, and their symbol is an eagle attacking. And we have Smash the Crowd from Public Enemy talking about what are we going to do when the grid goes down. Got it. We have 1,028 days left. This is an image of a climate change protest that took place during the 2022 French Open semi-final match at Roland Garros between Casper Ruud and Martin Cliche on June the 3rd, 2022. The protester, a French woman, entered the court and tied herself to the net, wearing a white t-shirt with the message, "We have 1,028 days left," printed on it. Now, gematria is the practice of assigning numerical values to letters. In this practice, zeros are often ignored. Therefore, when we see 1,028, we can also look at it as 128, because 1028, the zero is often ignored. Here we go again, that number 128. Are you starting to see a pattern? June 3rd, 2022 plus 1,028 days equals March the 27th, 2025. The first thing that should get your attention is that this date means nothing to the casual observer. Even after questioning the protester and her group, not one logical reason is given for this date. So what are we programmed to do? Well, we've been programmed to dismiss this as some random act by a bunch of crazies. This is exactly what they're counting on. There's nothing random about this. But would they just give us the date like that? Of course they would. So many things are hidden in plain sight in this world. That should be obvious by now at this point in the video. Besides, who would believe you if you told them? Not many, right? This is why it works so well.
We all know, but still pay insufficient attention to the frightening scenario of a comprehensive cyber attack, which would bring to a complete halt to the power supply, transportation, hospital services, our society as a whole. The COVID-19 crisis would be seen in this respect as a small disturbance in comparison to a major cyber attack. To use the COVID-19 crisis as a timely opportunity to reflect on the lessons the cybersecurity community can draw and improve our preparedness for a potential cyber pandemic.
Escape from Babylon. That's the name of my channel. I told you from the beginning that the world is a stage, the world is theater. They're all actors, the politicians, the news people, the sports, the programs you see on television. They're following a script, and the original script is the Holy Scriptures. Why is it that they seem to have so much abilities to predict things that are happening in real life? Because they're all following the same script. To give you an example, The Simpsons, the image that you see above, Lisa Simpson, and many people have noticed this, seems to be very similarly dressed as Kamala Harris on Inauguration Day. So Lisa Simpson is, being nominated for president in this show apparently, and Kamala Harris is vice president at the inauguration ceremony. Now, where does this come from? I'm going to give you an example. I'm going to quote some scriptures, Revelations 17, 3-6. The whore of Babylon is disclosed to Revelation's narrator, John of Patmos, in a vision from an angel. It goes as follows. I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast that was full of blasphemous names, and it had 7 heads and 10 horns. The woman was clothed in purple and scarlet, and adorned with gold and jewels and pearls, holding in her hand a golden cup full of abominations and the impurities of her prostitution. And on her forehead was written a name, a mystery, Babylon the Great, mother of whores and of earth's abominations. And I saw that the woman was drunk with the blood of the saints and the blood of the witnesses to Jesus. As you can clearly see, Lisa Simpson is dressed in purple and has pearl beads around her neck, just as the Bible quote. Kamala Harris is dressed incredibly similarly to Lisa Simpson. This is not a coincidence. I titled this video, What is the Great Game? I think you deserve an answer by this point. The great game we are all playing, whether you know it or not, has never been the Game of Thrones of politics. It has never been the game of money. It has always been the game for your soul. You cannot afford to play this game foolishly.